Well, friends, Cincinnati got the ship righted, it seems, this last week at TQL Stadium with a big 2-1 win over Austin. And with Brandon Vasquez taking the field, it was fun to see him back at TQL, even playing against our beloved orange and blue. Seeing somebody like that out on the field that demanded the respect and the joy of everybody in the stadium was so fun. But our guys came out with the victory, with Evander scoring, Dotto with a beautiful shot to put us ahead, game winner. It was a great night. It was a beautiful night at TQL. I happened to be there in the stadium at the very last minute. I'll tell you that story in just a moment. Welcome to episode 418 of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. My name is Brian Biedenbach. I'll be hosting the show tonight, and here with a slightly different look with just three of us on the program tonight. Coach, how you doing tonight, man? Welcome back.
Doing fantastic. I had to rush back from a late night work meeting to get here, but I had to be on the pod because we saw so many good things. We might have even seen a tactical game plan, y'all. So we'll talk about that later. I'm excited.
Yeah. Rupesh is already in the chat saying I feel shortchanged with only three people on tonight. But
give him a credit.
yeah. Give us a chance, Rupesh. We'll see how this thing goes. We're excited about what we can talk about tonight. Jose, welcome back to the program.
Great to be here. Excited, of course, because it's always a lot more fun to talk about a win. And as Coach said, just a lot of good things happened in this game.
No doubt. And again, it was, lots of, pieces that were put in place. We'll talk about the lineup. We'll talk about how the two striker system played off each other, the pieces that we had and some pieces that we potentially lost even later in the show in Matt Miazga. Who knows what's going on with his injury, but we'll talk about that later on. Before we get into the show, gentlemen, we've got to thank Apollo Home. FCC got back to its winning ways against a friendly face as a jam-packed week ahead kicks off. As the heat turns up in both the weather and upcoming derby, keep your house cool with the $29 HVAC cooling tune-up from Apollo Home. Also, remember this, just for CST listeners, Apollo Home is offering a $1,101 off coupon for a new AC unit. That's right, folks. That is $1,101 off. That's a heck of a coupon, and that's CST's gift just for you. Give Apollo a call, send them a text, or schedule online at apollohome.com. Thanks again to Apollo Home for your support and sponsorship of the show. Guys, let's jump into our best and worst. We've got some that were on Instagram and Blue Sky and Facebook today. We'll share those here in a few minutes. But Jose, I'm going to start with you live here on the show. Your best and worst, my friend.
Well, the best. I mean, we have to talk about Evander. I mean, he was the difference. I mean, he obviously scored the first goal, assisted in the second one. I mean, he played a really good game. And I looked at his heat map, and he was all over the field as well. He was disrupting, he was creating, he was attracting. So there's a reason he became also man of the match again. So that's really good. I have to also mention Buka as a best because even though he didn't have a fantastic game, somehow I got the sensation, and Coach can correct me, that the offense just seemed to work better with him there. There's just something that just made the whole thing click. Now, my worst, Matt Miazga going down. We don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know if anybody has heard anything about it. Said they might have some news today. They didn't have in the morning. And that's concerning because it's also his other leg. I mean, if it would have been the first one, it's okay. Well, maybe there's something going on there that didn't quite get healed, but it's the other leg. And when Hadebe came in, it just wasn't the same. I mean, he played well, but he was the cause of the PK, and we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Rupesh is in the chat. He agrees his worst is the Matt Miazga injury, and I think it's not that we forgot about that. It was early in the game, I think, and so for me it just felt like a sub for me right before halftime. Almost forgot Miazga was injured at the end of that game. Probably because I was still celebrating the win, not thinking about the injury there. He says his best non-Evander is Luca's diagonal passing to Lucas, which again we'll get into a little bit later, even in the talking tactics segment. Coach, let me kick it to you. Best and worst.
Yeah, my best for this match is going to be Lucas Engel's work ethic. I was specifically watching what his role would be like with Luca Orashano on the right to see if he'd function more like a left outside back or wing back. So I really focused in on him on my rewatch. And man, that guy gets up and down that line tirelessly. His sheer effort, getting on his horse to get up the left touch line helped create that first goal. Obviously, he was involved in both goals because of his ability to get forward. I think sometimes he chases the ball, which is like what I'm going to say for this because it's best, means that he's just putting so much effort in. He runs extra to try to go after the ball sometimes. He not only led the team with 9 progressive receptions, meaning receiving the ball going forward, but he also added 4 tackles and 2 interceptions. So you can see his work on both sides of the ball there. My worst, I'm going to go non-FCC here because I feel like it would be remiss of me to not mention what happened down in Nashville. If you haven't heard, their Spanish-speaking supporters group didn't show up to the match. And the reason why is they were afraid because there was a lot of ICE activity in the area, and they were told that they might be targeted because ICE would know there would be a lot of immigrant activity or immigrants around Spanish at that match. So they said, don't tailgate, but still come to the match. But they didn't even come to the match. Now, the other supporters group really showed out and even had a 10 minutes of silence where they held up signs saying, we're not all here. And I think that's incredible. And, don't get on us about this being political, because this is not political. This is about how people treat people, and that transcends politics. And I think we can all agree that there should be certain ways that we're able to gather and enjoy the company of each other, regardless of whether we're right or left, or whether we're here, or whether we were born here or naturalized or immigrated here. We should all be able to gather, and soccer should be one of those places. So that's going to be my worst.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us on this episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. I don't know that we can follow that, Coach. That was just a great statement, and absolutely 100% agree with you. It is about how we treat one another. I hadn't heard that story. I don't know where I've been living, but I hadn't heard that story. So thank you for sharing that and bringing that up. I'm going to bring us back to the FC Cincinnati match for my best and worst. And I got ahead of myself a little bit in the intro talking about Brandon Vasquez, but that was my best, is the love and respect that he showed to the fans in the stadium, and the love and respect that was shown back to him, even on his goal, without celebrating. He just kind of waved to the fans. Thank you, fans, whatever. It was just a sign of respect. He was a guy that we hated to see go, but we always wanted the best for him. And so to see him back, I hate that he keeps scoring on FC Cincinnati. But let me kick it to one of our best here in the on social media here. Let me find this here. It was where is it? I can't find it now. Somebody on social media says that it was their worst was Brandon, and the fact that they can't cheer for him. He was there, but they couldn't cheer for him. And so just even in that, their worst was, not being able to cheer for a guy that they love. Anyway, that was my best. My worst is that when I'm in the stadium, I got to go to the stadium thanks to Jason Ashcraft. Maybe I'll tell you that story in a moment. But when you're in the stadium, our seats were on the aisle, and a vendor comes walking down, and FC Cincinnati is attacking, and they stop to watch right in front of you. And you definitely want to stand up, but now you're standing up and you're looking around the guy carrying the big tub of beer or lemonade or whatever it is they're selling. It's something you don't get watching at home. So, at least in the stadium, but that was my worst. We got a few more here from social. We've got Rural Soccer Club, his best, that assist from Evander, he says, was a chest move. His worst was Luca not being Luca enough. Thought he played better for sure, but certainly not the Luca we saw last year. Guys, I wanted to get your opinions on this one from Hayden Schrodel 7 on Instagram. He says his best was Evander and his worst was Kubo.
No, Kubo, we've talked about Kubo before, and we talk about how has a strong work ethic. He moves the ball, and then he'll trip over himself. It frustrates you, or his pass is erratic. I mean, but that's Kubo. I mean, we've known that he's never going to be a world-class dribbler or passer for that matter. But to me, he was instrumental there in the midfield. And I have to admit, I confess, when I saw the lineup, I thought, oh man, I'm not sure about this. I mean, with no Obi Arnunga, I was wrong.
Yeah.
To me, he played a very solid game, and he was instrumental in the first goal.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
the Kubo hate is real, but I think it's born of the fact that he came here as a DP, and he is not a DP, right? If you think about him next to Kevin Denke or Evander or Luca Orishano even, you're going to be like, what is he really worth it? Because he came as a DP and then he was on such a high salary, but now, his deal has been reworked. And if you think of him more like Brian Tanunga, or a guy like that, like a middle of the lineup, maybe even a sub piece, like he had a good game, and I was excited to see him in there. When FC Cincinnati plays against teams that are defensively sound and not as good offensively, that's the perfect time to have a guy like Kubo out there to run more like 2/8 as opposed to have a true number 6 like Anunga or even Obi out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have a few more I want to throw up here. We'll talk more about Kubo later. We've got Jeff Tebbets. Our own Jeff Tebbets says Hagelin finding his best self again and his worst. The substitution pattern forced us to skimp on key subs. No doubt on that one. And the one I wanted to end with, guys, because I agree but find it funny, is Laszler on Blue Sky says his best was Evander's goal and assist. His worst was Denke getting a card because refs are dumb. Bring back the scabs. And that will bring our best and worst to a close. That guy definitely has to watch his cards coming up here in the coming matches. Let's get into the recap of the Austin match here, though, gentlemen. We had goals by Evander in the 12th minute, Dado Valenzuela in the 76th minute with Brandon Vasquez penalty there, sandwiched in between those two in the 48th. Unfortunately, as we mentioned, that was against us, not a Brandon Vasquez for us goal. We saw some good things happen in the attacking third that we haven't seen in the last couple of weeks. We did see Matt Miazga go down with a potential injury. I think they said it was hamstring tightness on the broadcast. I haven't heard an update on that. Got some statistics we can talk about. But Jose, let me toss it to you. Let's get your thoughts on the match just in general here.
Well, I think they controlled the match well. I mean, now, again, I always have a pet peeve with this team is that they can't put away teams that are not good. Just, slam them to the ground, leave them there. Don't let them get up again. And this has been a problem with this team now for a couple of years. But overall, they controlled the game. And I saw things that I hadn't seen a lot from FCC. I mean, moving the ball from side to side, opening up spaces. I mean, combinations among players that you had been expecting, but that you finally started to see. A defense that, again, played really well, really solid. Yes, when Matt came out, it got a little shaky there, but they recovered after the PK. So to me, it was one of those games that says, this was a very good performance from FCC. We saw things, tactically speaking, that we've seen before, but we saw them in more frequency, more effective, and more players got involved. There were more spaces opening up. So in general, I've left that game saying, wow, this is the FCC we need to see more of. This is the team that if we put this together, if they put this together on a consistent basis, it's going to be a very tough team. And then I can say, okay, now we're in a position to compete for silverware. So in general, that was my impression leaving the stadium, and I was really happy.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier, Jose, when you saw the lineup, you were skeptical.
Yeah,
I was just the opposite of that. I saw the lineup and I was hopeful. I did question Sergio Santos up top, and then I had to reflect back a little bit and think when he's come in late in games with Denke in, that seems to be a decent pairing, at least for a few minutes. The two seem to play off of each other fairly well, maybe as good, maybe it's slightly better than any other pairing we've had up top so far this season. So I was encouraged by that. I was excited to see Kubo and Buka in that the defensive mid role to progress the ball forward. We certainly hate to see Obi not out there, but with Kubo and Buka together, I was excited to see that pairing. So I was really, really hopeful about this lineup, more than probably I should have been. Coach, what did you think when you saw that starting lineup?
Yeah, before the match, I was telling anybody who would listen, against a team like Austin that has been so good defensively, but has struggled so much offensively, plus being at home, I really wanted Pat Noonan to roll out an offensive lineup. And what I thought that looked like would be playing 4 at the back with only 2 center backs on the pitch. Noonan didn't do that. But when I saw, okay, well, Orishano as a wing back, that could look an awful lot more like a back 4. And it did at times, right? With Nick Hagland, even made a couple overlapping runs, if you saw that, but it was so flexible because it wasn't just that. It wasn't, okay, Luka bombs forward and everything shifts and that's how it is every time. A couple times Engel was able to get really high too, and just keeping that field big and spread out with 2 guys out there on the wings who are both capable of doing things in the offensive third, as opposed to having a guy like Yedlin who's going to get up and down that flank and work tirelessly and bring leadership and defensive quality and all that, but is just not going to add anything in the attacking third. And then you add Kubo instead of Anunga, with Obi being out. And again, that's another piece that is capable in the attacking third. And what did we see? Kubo was instrumental in that first goal, even if he kind of lucked his way into part of it after he almost gave the ball away, right? But being able to carry the ball forward, he had 2 progressive carries and a few progressive passes in there and played a pretty good overall game, and for sure, just the eye test tells you, man, the team was able to move the ball so much more quickly and between the lines with Kubo and Engel and Orishano, as opposed to throwing a bunch of defensive pieces out there and asking them to try to do that work.
Yeah, Lucas Engel, you mentioned his tireless work ethic, and I feel like there are games we talk about how poorly he played and how few balls he put into the box and how he doesn't add anything offensively. In the very next game, he gets an assist. He sends a ball in that gets the hockey assist or whatever you call that, the second pass, right? And the guy is just, he's not really up and down, but maybe consistently maybe he's playing consistently, and where the balls are going and who they're going to, it has more to do with where players are running and how they're running off of each other. Evander was getting into space this time. It seemed that the top of the box, the top of the 18 on the left side attacking seems to be his spot. And if you look at his heat map, he was all over the place. The 2 hot spots, though, were right there at the top of the box and at the corner flag, because he was there like 10 times or something. I forget how many corners FCC had. It was a lot. But that seems to be a space where he, as I watched the game back, I didn't notice it necessarily watching live. As I watched some highlights and some of the game back, that seems to be his spot where he's most creative. He can shoot from there. He can dish a ball from there. He can square a ball up for somebody running down the middle, hit it to the corner. That seems to be his most creative spot. And to see that open up because of Lucas Engel and the runs he's making, and Engel being able to find him on that short pass instead of necessarily needing that long ball to the far post or near post with Denke running in, was good to see. We talk a little bit about Denke. It looked to me like he was getting more touches in the box. I didn't see stats this week. Coach, what did you see from Denke this week?
I thought he was really good and active, and I thought that mostly a product. We talk about, Sergio Santos starting up top with him instead of having 2 number 10s underneath. But I thought he looked just as good when Dado Valenzuela came on, which is more of the 210 look, which I guess smaller sample size, right? I think it was really a product of keeping that field so big and spread, and not having an Evander and an Orishano and an Obi and a Buka and everybody packed into that middle, and then trying to get Denke touches. It freed Denke up to drop in a little bit wider. So when he dropped into link up play, it wasn't always right in the middle channel. It was often in the kind of side channel that we would call the half space, right? Like if you take the 6-yard box and the 18-yard box and extend those lines all the way down the pitch and make a column, that's like the half space. He was able to drop in and get on the ball in those spaces. And we saw him do that and have a nice little back heel that almost freed up Evander for a shot. We saw him dish a little give and go with Orishano early in the first half and Orishano missed by maybe 2 feet, putting it in the top corner. So we saw him. He had a shot from distance. He had a couple really nice moments. So he didn't score. And I do think he left a little bit on the table. There was one shot in the first half from right in the middle of the box. He probably should have to the side. He hit it right at the keeper. But he was active and he was dangerous, and he definitely kept the defenders, those center backs, paying attention to him, exactly right, which freed up space for Evander and all the other guys.
Yeah, I saw some comments on social media that says, this Denke guy, he's not scoring, he could have scored. I said, how? I mean, in this game, he played a pivotal role, as you said, Coach, of attracting center backs. In Evander's first goal, he said that they weren't quite sure, well, he's going to pass it to Evander, and Evander didn't need much. He scored. Same on the second one. You could see it was attracting the center backs, which gave then Evander the liberty to pass it over to Dado. So he played, to me, a crucial role in just pulling defenders so that Evander then could do other things. So to me, it's not just about scoring. It's what do you do in the box as you move around to attract players and give opportunities to others. And he did that.
Yeah. I think that's such an underrated, it's not really a stat that you can put a number on, but the attention that you draw off the ball. I think that was one of the things, speaking of Brandon Vasquez, that he was so good at, making runs that defenders had to track him, which opened up space for other defenders because they know when the ball gets to his foot, whether it's Denke or Vasquez or whoever is making that run, they can finish. They've got the quality to do it. So we have to track with this guy. I think we saw maybe early on this season, definitely last season, players that weren't putting the ball in the net and defenders just quit tracking with them. Right. And so they doubled up on guys like Lucho last year because we knew he could finish. So the fact that Denke can do that, I don't know if you saw, I watched back several times Evander's his goal early in the first half in the 12th minute. And even where Denke was, he was there to clean up the scraps. He ran off the defender. And if that keeper had a touch on the ball and saved it, Denke was the first one in the area that could get a foot on it. So his positioning, even not scoring, was brilliant on there to clean up the trash if it were to bounce back out. So Jose, we talked a little bit about Orshano. I was excited that he was on the right wing back position and Yedlin wasn't there. I just thought at least we're going to get balls going forward on the right side instead of backwards this week. His hair was dyed. He was back to his blonde self. And I thought, okay, here we go. This is the Luca Orshano that we all love. We fell in love with last season. How'd you feel about his play out there on the right wing back spot?
I mean, he didn't have the best of games, but I guess we're spoiled, right, with the level of play he had last year where he was doing just about everything, but maybe it was Lucho helping him. But I think he had a very solid game. Again, this was one of my skepticisms when I saw the lineup. I said, well, okay, yes, we know he can move up the wings, but can he defend? But it turned out it wasn't an issue because when you have a team like Austin, like Coach said, is very defensive, then you're not going to have to worry a lot about that. I think he did very well. He moved up the wing. He created opportunities up there. He attracted players. We're still not seeing him, though, the Orellano that we saw last year. Maybe that will come if he gets more comfortable on the right wing back. I don't know. Maybe it was Lucho. I mean, I'm going to say maybe it was Lucho who was making him look good, although by himself he did a lot of good things last year.
Can't say
so
that.
I think he did the role that he was put on yesterday, which is the right wing back. Go upfield, create opportunities, create some danger up in the last third. And okay, we're not sure how good you still are on defensive side, if you ever will be, but we don't have a lot to worry about this team in terms of their offensive capabilities.
Yeah, Coach Orshano, to be fair, he's played mostly a different position this year than he had last year. He played left wing back, right wing back last year. Mostly, we've called him kind of in to play that dual 10 role, which initially I thought was pretty excited. I was excited about, but it seems on the right side, he has more space to run into. And a player like Oreshano with his speed, it seems to lend to his skill set a little bit more. Would you agree with that? And if so, why or why not?
Yeah, on this very show last week, I said the thing that I wanted Pat Noonan to do was get Oreshano out wider to give him the whole field to look at. And I think that's the key. If you ask him to drop in that half space I was talking about, receive the ball with his back to goal, and then figure out where he's going to go, he is really good. If he can get turned and get past that defender, then he's in open space. But then he's starting to try to take in information. Okay, now I'm in space. I just beat a defender. Where's the next defender? Where are the runners? He's having to do all that on the fly, which he's never had to do in his career because he started as a winger, right?
Yeah.
Wingers, you stay out wide, you receive the ball facing the whole field that you want to attack. You know where all the defenders are already. You've already made eye contact with that striker. You've already looked up and seen, oh, my opposite counterpart over there on the left, Lucas, has some wide open space. If I get in on my left foot, maybe I'll ping one over there to him, right? You have all that information, and the game is simplified for him. It allows him, if he wants to run out a defender, to know, if I beat this guy, I can shoot, cut this pass, or hit this pass. The options are already there. So whether it's as a wingback or a winger, I think getting him wide is going to be key, at least for now, for his success.
But she did what you just said on the second goal.
Exactly.
On the right, all the way to the left to Engel, and then the rest of the play.
Yeah. He's dangerous in space, and even more so when he has space after he beats a guy, then to make a decision instead of being, met with the second and third defender, because it's so jam-packed there in the box, for sure. One player we haven't talked much about as we wrap up this segment of the recap was, and I want to get to some comments here as well, so keep those coming in the chat. The one player we haven't talked much about yet is Sergio Santos. When I mentioned him earlier, I was a little skeptical when I first saw him, but his partnership with Denke seems to be developing. And so when he was in there, I thought maybe he's the guy that Cincinnati needed up front to just cause havoc against a back line that otherwise would be so focused on Denke. Not that he's got the skill, the talent of a Denke, but he's fast. He can get around guys. He's not a terrible passer, but he's going to cause you to pay attention to him. And so I felt like he played the role, if nothing else, he played the role of disruptor of that back line this week to allow Denke to get more touches on the ball. Coach, what did you see out of Santos this week? Would you agree with that, or was he just lost running around out there?
No, I agree. Like, I think I said a couple weeks ago, can we put the comments to rest that he doesn't work hard? Because I think he's been working really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been impressed with his work rate. I've been impressed with his touch. Like, I think that's gotten a lot better. And anytime you have a guy out there with his physical qualities, the size and the speed, that's willing to go challenge for balls, make runs in behind, you can see it. We'll talk about the first goal in depth and talking tactics, and Sergio Santos plays a key role there, but he also does Sergio Santos thing. Like, after Evander hit the post in the 19th minute, it's not talked about a lot because Evander just hit the post, but Santos had an open goal to aim at that he just needed to hit in. Instead, he pinged it off the defender and then asked for a handball, right? So he still does the Sergio Santos things that you're like, man, if he could just in that moment have a little bit of chill, put the ball in the back of the net. But it's MLS. You're not going to have 11 guys out there that all can finish that chance in their sleep. If you have one or two, you're doing well. So I'll take Santos. I wouldn't want him to be the long-time, full-time starter day in and day out for this club. I think there's better options. But certainly in a pinch, and certainly for this match, I thought it was a good game.
Yeah. We'll talk about maybe one of those new options that Cincinnati just recently signed as of, I believe, even today, later in the show. I want to get to some of these comments here. One of them from Eric Schmidt, and I'll toss this to either one of you if you want to look at this one. The question is, will Denke be satisfied playing the role long term? And that was the segment we were talking about him making runs, being a decoy, opening up space for others, or will he become frustrated consistently playing that role? How do you feel about that, Jose?
Well, I noticed a little bit of frustration during the game. I mean, I was there. Mm-hmm. So at times it's almost like he was saying, why didn't you pass it to me? But again, he was playing an important role. And maybe it's just a matter of Coach Noonan working with him more and saying, look, you're going to score. You're going to get opportunities to score. You already have. I mean, he has, 6 goals, something like that. Mm-hmm. But we also need you as a decoy. Because everybody knows that we've got Evander, so they're going to focus on him and maybe you. But if you start pulling players, there's going to be more opportunities for other teammates. I think if Noonan works with him, he'll be okay. But if his expectation is that he's going to be the scoring king, then yes, I can see how in one moment he might get frustrated and say, what am I doing here? Hopefully it doesn't happen, because I think he's already adding a lot of value with his physicality, his ability to retain the ball, his ability to attract defenders, and yes, his ability to score.
Yeah,
Coach,
I think
he's a
that's
number 9, supposed to be a scoring king. That's how they're supposed to feel. Am I right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think that's a non-issue. If he was playing that role, like we were really saying, if Pat was really saying, "Hey, Kevin Denke, you're really going to drop into the midfield and you're going to be facilitator for us," then certainly he might start getting frustrated. But dude had half of his touches in the attacking third. He had 5 shots, 3 on target, had a couple legit chances that he'll be looking at. His frustration is, I should have put that away, not I didn't get the ball enough. Every time he doesn't get the ball when it's in the penalty area, he's going to be like, come on guys, you should have given it to me. And that's what we want. It's like wide receivers in the NFL. Like, you want them to want the ball every time, as long as they don't quit working, which we saw late in that game. Kevin Denke was still making good hard runs, and it was his good hard run that totally pulled all the center back's attention on the second goal, on the Dado Valenzuela goal. So he's doing the work, he's getting the shots, he's scoring the goals.
I completely agree. I mean, the one, I guess, disagreement I would have in that is that if he is used to, like when he was in Belgium, to being the guy that you went to for scoring, and that's not going to happen here because we have other playmakers that can do that, then yes, his frustration level could increase a little bit. But, if he starts learning how things are going to work here in MLS and especially on this team, then maybe that frustration won't happen. I'm looking more at the role he used to play in Belgium, where it's like, hey, I'm the guy, I'm going to save the day. And I'm not saying that's his attitude. No, by any means. But if that's what he's used to, then he's going to play a slightly different role in this team and in MLS.
I do believe he had wingers that could cross the ball into him in Belgium, which is what we've been saying all season we're missing here, at least so far. So the play style is different, and he's going to be receiving the balls in different from different places on the field, and so there is an adjustment there for sure. Guys, I want to move on because there is a striker that we'll talk about later that could help this, the not attitude that we're seeing, but some of the frustration. A guy that can come in. He's been kind of a journeyman through the MLS. This will be his 12th team that he's played for in Cincinnati, and Kai Kamara. We'll talk about that later on. I want to get to talking tactics, but first let's thank Beyond Exercise, which is a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury-free. And in fact, they've helped some of our local MLS Next, and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs. Check out their suite of services at Go Beyond Exercise. Coach, we saw a couple goals in this match, and we're a little bit excited about the attacking prowess of this team that seemed to be clicking maybe in ways that we haven't seen it quite yet this season. Talk to us a little bit about what you saw in this segment of Talking Tactics.
Yeah, so what I was most excited about is not that they created a ton of chances, because they didn't. They created some good chances, a decent amount of XG, but it wasn't off the charts, right? They only had the 2 goals. But we've sat here on this very show and talked about, does Pat Noonan have a tactical idea in attack, or does he just roll the ball out there and be like, figure it out, y'all? And we talked about the challenges of not having a Lucho, that's where he thrives, that Argentinian street soccer. Roll the ball out to me and I'll figure it out. In this match, I thought there was a real dedication to do what a lot of teams do, which is just basically to get the ball into areas where you can have overloads. So when you hear the word overload, what that means is simply that you have more players in that area than the opponent has. Or really an offensive overload, you could even have equal numbers, because if you have the ball and it's 3-on-3 or 4-on-4, you have the advantage because you know what you're doing, and the defense is always trying to react. But what you saw them, they spread the field so wide, and then they were not afraid to switch the ball. And if there was not an overload there, switch it back. So let's talk about the first goal, because the first goal you saw them set up with literally Lucas Engel and Luca Orellano had their heels on the chalk. They were as wide as you could get, and they were swinging that ball back and forth. It didn't work to go up the right with Orellano, so they swung it back to the left. When they got the ball to Engel, you had Evander over there checking to the ball. You had Kubo over there checking to the ball, and okay, there was an overload. You only had 2 defenders closing, and you had Engel with the ball and Kubo and Evander. So both defenders stepped hard to Evander, thinking he was going to get the ball, and Kubo just drifted in behind them. Engel made a pretty simple pass, but it broke those lines. And now Kubo is dribbling forward through the thirds. Lucas Engel, to his credit, I talked about this before, got on his bike and got up the field so that when Kubo kind of bobbled the ball and almost lost it, he was able to get the ball to Lucas Engel. Then you saw Kevin Danke and Sergio Santos really making hard, aggressive runs in the box. So those center backs of Austin could not go out wide to help out with Engel, could not step to Kubo. So they continued to have that overload. So then when Engel shifted it back inside to Evander, you actually saw the center back that was closest try to step on Evander and run into Sergio Santos because there were bodies there and more people. Those overloads really allowed Evander to have that half a second extra that he needed. And then with a guy like Evander with that quality, it's a quality finish, right?
Yeah.
Do we want to talk more about? Yeah, go.
No, I was just going to ask, like, that's something we don't, or maybe make a comment. That's something we don't see often. Those overloads right there in the middle of the box with just a lone striker, a lone number 9 playing up top. So with Sergio Santos in there making a difference, the other center back had to track a second striker instead of double teaming up on Denke or one of them stepping to Evander. That space would not have been open had we not had that second striker there. So it maybe we're onto something in this formation, or maybe the double 10s that we've been playing who should be making that run in don't, because they hang out at the top of the box waiting for the ball to pop out.
Brian, that is a great point, and what a professional segue, because let's talk about the second FC Cincinnati goal in the 76th minute, right? Because there were not 2 strikers on the pitch. But again, that field was spread really wide, and so when they chose to go forward, they went forward on the right, they split lines to Dado Valenzuela, and he was able to get on the half turn and push the ball out wide to Orishano, and they had a little mini overload with those 2 on there because there was only one defender and another one coming. Orishano was able to get onto his left foot and hit that giant switch to Lucas Engel. And then Engel had an overload over there with Evander. So Engel settled the ball and played it to Evander in the corner of the box. Kevin Danke made a good, really hard run to the near post as the lone striker. But what you said, that second 10, Dado Valenzuela then was able to get in on that back post for that Evander, the outside of the foot pass, which we call a Travella because, you know, there was a guy named Travella that did them all the time. That Travella, beautiful pass to Dado. And it's all about switching the fields to make the defense turn their heads and to have unmarked runners. They could not mark Evander because they could only have one defender on the weak side. So you switch the field, you have an overload. Then as they all shift and they shift onto Denke making the run, shift towards the ball with Evander because he's already beat you once. Now you have Dado Valenzuela coming unmarked. I saw Buca also make that similar run in the first half, even with Santos on the pitch. But it is, if you are not going to have 2 strikers on the field, then you got to have guys, whether it's Orishano or Buca or Evander, you have to have guys willing to make those runs into the box to keep those center backs turning their heads and trying to figure out where the runs are coming from.
So a couple things that you mentioned in the segment that one that I thought of was Dado Valenzuela. That run that he made in on that second one is a run that I've not seen many of our midfielders making this season. And the fact that he looked up and saw Evander with the ball in the exact same spot where he scored the first goal. And Evander see a guy that you've got space, I'm going to hit it to you. I could hit this right now, but I'm going to get it to you because I can get it just over that second defender's head. Like, it was a beautiful ball. And that's not an easy finish. Let's be honest. The ball coming that high off a half volley, it bounced right before he hit it. To finish that was pretty quality. So for a young player like Dado to recognize the space, to run into it, and to finish is something that really excites me about his future. Jason Ashcraft was sitting right next to me. I told you I'd used one of his tickets, and I turned to him and I said, listen, beginning of the season, I said this is going to be Dado Valenzuela's breakout year. It's only 2 goals, but he's got more goals than Luca Orishano at this point. So I'm sticking with Dado's breakout season. But a young player recognizing a run like that was pretty fantastic. And the other one that you mentioned is the ability to switch fields. As I think back, that's what Lucho did. He could dribble a guy, 3 or 4 guys, but he could hit a ball diagonally to a guy on the run. And we haven't seen that much. Now that I think about it this season, we've seen it come from the midfield to the wings, but we've not seen it touchline to touchline much. And so the fact that led to both of the goals this last weekend was pretty insightful.
Yeah, Brian, I've talked about this before that like our FC Cincinnati's wide players have been starting 5 or 7 yards too narrow on those runs. So you can't even hit those switches because you look up to hit the switch. And if you think about that second goal, if Engel was 7 yards closer in, he and Evander would have been either standing next to each other or then Evander has to shift 7 more yards. And now all of a sudden that overload where you had 2v1 against the outside back, the wing back of Austin, becomes a 2v2 because now Evander's standing next to a center back. So that width is so important. It's not that you don't have guys on the pitch that can do it. Miles Robinson is a great passer. DeAndre Yedlin can hit that ball. He is a good long passer, better than average for an outside back, I would say. He's probably not as good as a Lucho Acosta or Luke Orashano, but he can do it. It's about having that width and having the understanding, the tactical game plan that, hey, we want to spread that field wide and we want to look for those.
Yeah, I think, was it a couple weeks ago on the show, somebody pointed out that Lucas Engel being wide open, almost Hoyt level of open on the left side. And now, whoever said that, I think, was that you, Coach?
I think it was
Hoyt,
Coach. Yeah, I think it was
jersey,
Coach.
Over there. Maybe you lit a fire. Maybe you made them look up because now they're seeing him and they're making that switch. The last couple of matches, we've seen that for sure. So we've got that game of some fun tactics, some good tactics. Thanks, Coach, for pointing that out. I do think that's something that we should be watching more for, is those long ball switches, whether it's Lucas hitting it to Luca or Luca hitting it to Lucas, or whoever is on those touch lines. It does seem to be a point of attack that we are creating from, and so excited to see.
I do have a quick question for Coach.
Yeah, go for it.
And I don't want to speculate or anything like that. Do you think this is something they should continue to do? Because again, this was Austin, highly defensive team. Is this something they should continue to work on, to tweak it, to perfect it, if you will? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the idea of building overloads and looking for the time to go forward is really important, and that should stick. Now, when you make the field giant offensively, it also means when you turn the ball over, you're subject to a counterattack. And we actually saw Austin get out and run a few times. The one and only Lucas Engel, who we've been heaping praises on, had a couple times where he came inside and passed it right to Owen Wolf, as if Owen Wolf, like wearing the verde and white there, was blending in with the pitch at TQL. So there is some danger to it, right? Yeah. But I think that, get the field big and trust yourselves and say, even if we give up a goal on the counter, we're going to score playing this way. We have Evander, Kevin Danke, Luca Orashano, Dado Valenzuela, all-stars, right? So let's score goals and play a little bit. Don't be so risk averse. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Make that field big and have some joy.
Yeah. Well, guys, we've alluded to this a couple times already in the show, is that an FCC legend is returning, and that's not working right. I didn't delete something. So I'm going to leave it on Talking Tactics, and we're going to talk about an FCC legend and Kai Kamara signing with Cincinnati. I know this goes back to, I believe, 2018. Cincinnati had Kai Kamara, drafted him, signed him, and then traded him away right away. I believe that's what it was. Never wore the jersey. I don't think ever trained with the team. He's been with 11 other clubs since. He's back with Cincinnati. I know there's been rumors flying anytime they're looking for an attacking player. Kai Kamara to Cincinnati, and we finally got it at the ripe old age of 40, but the guy still has it and has made an impact on every team he's played for. Could he be the guy that unlocks some things with this offense on the field or maybe in the locker room? I'm excited to see what Kai brings. Coach, what do you think about this signing? Is this a we need somebody on the field, a depth piece, or is this a locker room culture signing, or is Kai Kamara the real deal that just brings both to a squad like Cincinnati?
It's hard to call 40-year-old Kai Kamara the real deal. It depends on what the deal is you're trying to make. If the deal is, wow, we can get a goal scorer on a veteran minimum contract in a supplemental roster spot, then he is that real deal. He's going to be a fantastic plan B because, he has not been an outstanding goal scorer over the past 4 or 5 years. He's right in the 50th percentile in that range for strikers, goals per 90. But he is in the 99th percentile for assists, because one thing Kai Kamara has always done, and even more so as he's aged, is he is not afraid to do that dirty work that we talked about Sergio Santos doing. He will be a target. He will chase balls down. He will knock balls down to teammates and try to set them up. And then talk about an aerial presence and the ability to knock the ball down and a plan B. He is also in the 95th percentile for clearances, the 82nd percentile for aerial wins, aerial duels won. So he can help you on set pieces offensively and defensively. I think this is a no-brainer. He will help FC Cincinnati on the field as long as he stays healthy. And I would not be even surprised to see him start as a lone striker in a handful of matches as Kevin Denke gets a rest.
Yeah, and he's no slouch, right? He's got 147 regular season MLS goals. He's played in 445 matches. And as I mentioned, this is his 12th club, and he's made an impact everywhere he goes. He might not be the man and the guy in any offense, but he's a guy that is that plan B. He's a guy that's good in the air, as you mentioned, and he's a guy that knows how to find the back of the net when his number is called. And so I'm excited to see what he brings. We had a comment from Rupesh earlier in the show. I wanted to save it till this segment. He says, with the club signing Kai Kamara today, how much time do you see Corey Baird and Stefan Chirilla getting? Because Kai and Sergio might be splitting the time. Jose, what do you think about this?
Well, I mean, let's face it. Almost Baird. We root for him because he's a nice guy, but
Corey almost always.
I mean, it never happens for him. Now, I don't know if it's just bad luck or just not have the skills. So I think Corey, at least this year, may see less minutes because of Kai. By the way, full disclosure, I was telling this to Brian before the show. I had never heard of Kamara. And the reason being is that I never paid attention to MLS until FCC came along. And then I was just focused on FCC. So I never really paid attention to some of these players. I didn't even know that he had been actually drafted in 2018. And by the way, who did we get in return? Or was it just cash?
I honestly don't remember. I looked that up this last week, and I don't remember. Justin may be able to speak to that later in a segment coming up here. If not, I'm putting him on the spot.
But as I thought about it, okay, this is a guy that obviously has gravitas, has credibility, has been successful. He brings a certain style of leadership that I think is going to continue to be important in the locker room, as well as on the pitch when he gets minutes. And I think Cincinnati needs more of those kinds of leaders. So as I read more about him, as I read more about his style and what he brings, is okay, this makes sense. Maybe it's just this year. Maybe it's just another depth piece there for, plan B, as you said. And that's fine. I mean, this will work out fine. And I think Baird is going to see less and less time.
I'm not sure how signing a striker in Kamara affects backup wingback Corey Baird's time on the pitch personally, but I do think Stefan Chirilla will probably see fewer minutes because of this.
Yeah. So we do have an answer to that question. Justin wrote in and said we got an international spot, and Sean Pace says we got none other with that international roster spot than Kendall Waston, which was... You can't argue with that signing either. Waston is a guy that we've actually been in communication with about possibly getting as a guest here on the show. So don't know when that's going to happen, but he seems interested, and we're gonna keep working with him to get him here soon. So that answers that question.
Excellent.
So we do have Toronto coming up in Toronto. There's a lot of games this month. I feel like we're just getting started with the number of matches. We got one this Wednesday in Toronto. Does Kamara play? What kind of rotation do you see in the lineup? Does Denke stay out there? Now, one thing we didn't mention earlier is Denke is sitting now on 4 yellow cards, one more, and he's suspended for the Hell is Real derby. And so we hope that doesn't happen this week. So does he play? Does he not play? Does he come in late in the match? What do you guys see as far as rotation in the lineup with Denke or other players this coming week?
Rest him. Don't put him in. I mean, somebody said, and I apologize. Somebody said in our chat, we don't want him risking another yellow card because he's too physical. It's like, or physicality or something like that. Rest him. We cannot afford to go into up there north without him, without a full roster.
But that's not why he's getting his yellow cards. He's gotten 2 for taking his shirt off.
He got
Totally
2 for- yeah, yeah.
avoidable. Totally
those were
avoidable.
avoidable. But I mean, the last one he got, it's like, come on, guys. I mean, this is a regular play in Europe. I mean, why are you giving him a yellow card for that?
Yeah.
So he's got 4 now. A 5th one, he's not up there in Columbus, and that's bad.
Well, did you see late in the match? He was involved in he got tangled up with somebody. The foul was called. He started talking, and the whole stadium was like, "Stop talking!"
Yeah.
And Noonan, I didn't hear what he said. Noonan must have screamed something at him because he turned around, walked away from the ref with his hands out like this, talking to Noonan. So Noonan must have been on his case, saying, "Shut your mouth! Do not get another one for that." Coach, I hope Denke sits this week, doesn't start. What do you think?
Well, first of all, you can't sit him the whole match because you got to at least play him a few minutes to allow for that yellow card accumulation, the games that you play without getting cards, But the one thing Toronto does well is defend. This is going to be a match where chances are going to be at a premium. Toronto, has been having a really hard time generating chances, but they've been a pretty good defense. So you also, Kevin Denke, not only is he your high-priced DP, he's also probably one of your fittest players. He's young, so the midweek matches shouldn't be as a big deal. He plays in a position where you don't run as much as the midfielders or the wingbacks. I'd be looking to maybe get a Lucas Engel some time on the bench, maybe one of those center backs that's played a lot of minutes lately, maybe a Miles Robinson or a Nick Haglund, not both of them. Rest some of those defensive pieces. Make sure you put a strong offensive lineup out there. And if I'm Pat Noonan, I'm thinking, I hope we can get a 1 or 2 goal lead and pull Kevin Denke off in the 60th minute. You got to, as a coach, you have to be able to trust your guys that are not in positions where you might have to take a tactical foul. Obi, you can't necessarily trust him, not only because he's going into every challenge, but he might be in a spot where it's like, make this challenge or they have an opportunity to score. Kevin Denke, you should be able to talk to him and say, look, your situation, you want to play under the lights and the Hell Israel Derby, all that. Look how fun this is going to be. Don't get a card. And maybe he will, maybe he won't. But like I said about the passing and the pushing the ball forward, if you play so risk averse all the time, you're asking your players to be risk averse. And I don't think that's a way to go out and accumulate a bunch of wins.
I think Kevin Denke sits, at least to start the game. Kai Kamara, Dado Valenzuela up top. We know, obviously, Evander and Dado have a great partnership because they scored 1 goal together. That's obviously going to click. Kai Kamara is obviously good in the air, and we're going to get some guys that, though they haven't done it all season, send some balls in the box for Kamara to head down into the back of the net. That's how I see this starting. I'd say that in jest, but I actually would kind of like to see that this week, and Denke come in late to be the hero in the match, get some minutes, get that yellow card accumulation down. But again, who knows? That dude is a monster, and running up against the center back, if they fall down, obviously, he's the bigger dude. He's going to get the foul. He's going to get the card, and then he's out for
and that's what I mean. He's probably used to a certain kind of physicality in Europe that over here, the refs think it's, oh my God, you're going to send this guy to the hospital. Say, hey, this is soccer. Go watch a game or 2 from the Premier League to get a feel for how it is.
Yeah.
I'm joking, but I'm not.
Right. Guys, I want to bring Justin in here for this next segment in soccer in our area. So Justin, I think there we go. Put you on the screen here. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk as our 4th voice here tonight.
That's cool.
Yeah. Thanks for your behind the scenes comments and the international roster spot research you've done for us back there.
No, it's all fun. I'm a huge fan of the show, even when I'm not on it. So I will never miss an episode. So I was just enjoying the banter and going back and forth. But no, I just wanted to come on to give you guys soccer in our area a little bit. We had the Ohio Valley Premier League just start back up. Bootleggers went up to Valhalla. I actually was able to take my kids. My kids are huge fans of their stadium staircases. So that's what I was doing my entire Saturday evening, was running up and down the stairs. But it was a lot of fun. good atmosphere, great field position. I've never actually been up there before. That was a lot of fun. But also, I saw Manu Ledesma go out there and score absolute pearl from a free kick. That was beautiful. The Manu Ledesma Academy won 3-0.
That's got to bring back good memories, right?
It does.
I don't know that we've seen a consistent corner kick taker, free kick taker like we did in Manu.
No way. No way. Yeah, it like the TST vibes down in Carroll, North Carolina, just kind of made its way up here. So
awesome.
Props to Manu for starting that club. They're a lot of fun too. They're getting the growing pains. This is their first year, so they're taking some lumps in the standings, but they're fighting back, and it was great to see them out there. USLW. So for those who aren't familiar, that's the 4th division. It is amateur soccer. It's a lot of college players that come back during the summer and play, locally for the club that they may have grown up with, or were able to play with some of the players that went off to other colleges. The Dayton Dutch Lions will be traveling to Racing Louisville this week on Wednesday at 6 p.m. So if you want a little bit of a pre-match before FC Cincinnati's match against Toronto, you should check that one out. King's Hammer is going to be hosting Racing Louisville for the USLW. That's if you guys haven't seen Kylie Simmons, we did a feature. I think it was Christy Kivi did a great feature on Kylie Simmons. She is unbelievable, and she just transferred to Tennessee, but now you get to come home and play with the friends, and there's no pressure, so it's a lot of fun. Be sure to check that out. They did move new stadium, so we'll keep you posted on that. USL 2, which is the men's side of the same tier system, the Dayton Dutch Lions will be hosting some club called Fort Wayne FC.
Fort Wayne FC. Fort Wayne FC, who I am quickly becoming a fan of, living here in Fort Wayne, hosting a Fort Wayne footy podcast covering Fort Wayne FC. We talked a little bit about that match on our show last night. If you're interested in hearing a little bit of that, check it out. But man, Fort Wayne FC put on a show last night against Sueño FC. 2 late goals, but man, it was fun to watch. So that should be a fun game if you're in the Dayton area and you can get out there and check it out.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, the Fort Wayne FC has been the creme de la creme of that division for I think 3 seasons now. So definitely, if you're in the Dayton area, go out there and check it out. It's a great family-friendly environment. The players come up to the stands after the match. It's a great way to experience soccer on a Sunday night.
Rupesh, that is DeMarcus Beasley's team. He's part of the ownership of Fort Wayne FC, if you recognize that name, for sure.
And then other matches that you got OVL, the Ohio Premier League will be also having a doubleheader with the Bootleggers, which is a new club on my side of the river over here in Kentucky. So if you're able to make it, they have a doubleheader with the women's team and the men's playing. That is going to be on Saturday at 4 p.m., starting at 4 p.m., and the men's will be playing at 6:30. So definitely check it out. And if you want to get some of that Manu Ledesma magic, they play on Sunday at Xavier University at 6:30 p.m. So go out there, check the socials for each of these clubs. If you want more information about this rundown, be sure to look out for our Soccer in Our Area newsletter that will be posted tomorrow.
Awesome. Justin, thanks for jumping on. The thing that I appreciate about this is the amount of soccer that happens in a city like Cincinnati. I'm learning. I mentioned a shameless plug for my new podcast, Fort Wayne Footy, here in Fort Wayne. I'm learning just how much soccer there's going on in our small city, big town, small city of Fort Wayne, that when I posted that I was going to start this thing, people started reaching out and going, hey, cover our team. And so there's so much happening that even I was unaware of, that just different levels of soccer that people can get involved with, can see players that maybe they played against in high school, playing at maybe the next level that's not professional, it's amateur, but they're making a name for themselves, getting opportunities to move forward and move on in their career is a lot of fun. Go check it out, especially on nights that maybe FC Cincinnati doesn't happen to be playing and you've got nothing else to other soccer to watch. Go check it out. Justin, thanks for joining us for this soccer in our area. Will you stick around for final thoughts here?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Awesome. We're running a little bit late tonight, and that's okay. People seem to like our longer shows. We're not going to be that much longer, but we are going to wrap it up with our final thoughts. If you're interested in getting in touch with us here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk, we appreciate your comments here in the chat. But if you want to reach out, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support would be a good way to follow us on Patreon, to support us there on Patreon. Feedback at Cincinnati Soccer Talk is a great email address to reach out if you've got questions. We have had some good ones come in the last couple of weeks that we've actually addressed on the show, maybe without actually reading the question. We've talked about some of the feedback that's come in. So we appreciate hearing from you. Thanks for that. Thanks for being a part of the show. Let's move into our final thoughts. And Jose, I'm actually going to start with you on these final thoughts here.
Okay. Well, as we said, the team played well. We really liked what we saw. The PK was unfortunate, but that's the game. But we got 3 points, which was important. I think there was that tweak that we talked about in the tactics that opened up the field, created more opportunities. The team seemed to play more fluid, and that's encouraging. I think if they still continue building on that, this is going to be, again, a very tough team to beat. We're ahead, or I'm ahead on my forecast, by the way. I said we would get 12 points in May, although I said we tie New York City. That one I missed big time. We would tie against Austin. Well, that one I missed too. So I predicted 2 points up to now. We're up to 3. So not doing too bad. If we continue to play at this level, if we avoid any major injuries, and we don't play down to the level of the teams, I think we can win the rest of the games except Saturday. I'm probably not going to be a very popular guy, but I think we're going to lose on Saturday. I hope I'm wrong. So all in all, things are looking really good for this team.
In those new kits, even, you think we're going to lose? I don't know if you saw that, the numbers, the new numbers.
Those kits are amazing. I love it.
They're awesome.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jose. It's always good to have you on the show. Appreciate your thoughts and your breakdown of the matches and your commentary on the team and players. Thanks for being here. Coach, final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm really excited, as I talked about in talking tactics, seeing this tactical idea developing from Pat Noonan. I think that he's a good coach and he gets there eventually, sometimes a little more slowly than I'd like him to. But now, coming with midweek matches, rolling into games where you might not have Matt Miazga, rolling into games against Columbus Crew that are going to be, harder challenges. This is where I really want to see that the tactical ideas continue to stick around and even develop forward. So while I want them to win every match, I'm less concerned with whether they go win Hell Israel Derby. What I want to see are those tactical ideas maintaining. So, I would look for seeing that field big and spread out, watch for them getting overloads. And if you see tactical things that you want me to talk about on this show or want us to talk about on this show, make sure you get in touch with us like Brian talked about before this segment so that we have some ideas of the stuff that y'all want to talk about or want us to discuss.
Yeah. Coach, thanks. I know that a lot of your Talking Tactics segments have come. Some of them have come from that feedback you talk about the pressure and the pressing. What does that mean? A few shows ago. So absolutely send in your comments, your thoughts, your questions for Coach at feedback@CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Coach, thanks for being here as always. Justin, you joined us for the last segment, and let's get your final thoughts on the show tonight.
Yeah, so I think Coach brought it up earlier in the show, but talk about fans supporting fans and the supporter group community banding together. I'd like to see a little bit of banding together for Kumas in Cincinnati. We have a wonderful person that's going to be going over to Ghana, to Kumas, the city that supporter group is home to. And they'll be putting together kind of a care package, kind of a group of FC Cincinnati memorabilia or soccer memorabilia from this area So I think that would be a really fun way for our people that follow Cincinnati Soccer Talk or just the greater supporter group community to be able to kind of put. I loved like the time capsule things when I was a kid. So I think it's a great idea to just pick out something that I really want them to have over there while they're watching their matches. Those guys are probably some of the most dedicated fans. I mean, it's like 1 a.m. on some of those matches.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Justin, thanks for joining us even late in the program, late in the show tonight, and for your final thoughts. And again, as always, your behind the scenes research and management of some of the comments on screen here. So always appreciate that help. My final thought, I'm going to stay away just from soccer, but I'm just going to give some life advice. Okay. Unsolicited, if you are, from out of town and you happen to be halfway to Cincinnati and somebody offers a free ticket to a game, and your wife is with you and rode with you in the same car to this city that's halfway to Cincinnati, make sure you ask in a public place when other people are around, and make sure you definitely have a ride home for her from that city with some friends that are also there, because you may have an opportunity on a beautiful night to see Cincinnati beat Austin SC at TQL. That's my final thought for the night. Thanks for joining us here on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We'll talk to you next week.